Welcome back to Close Up, everyone. In just a couple of days, President Obama will be back in New Hampshire. He's speaking at a town hall at Nashua North High School. And this visit comes less than a week after the State of the Union address, and at a time the White House is trying to get the agenda back on track and gain some of that optimism that it had about a year ago. I'm joined now by strategists on both sides of the aisle. Jim Demers, thanks very much for joining us. Mike Dennehy. First of all, President Obama, he said he really wants to change the tone during the State of the Union between Republicans and Democrats. We've heard that before, but on Friday he spent some time in Baltimore at a Republican retreat. What does that say to you?
I think it says that he's going to make every effort to try to bring the other side on board and try to get some things done for America. I mean, if you look at where we are right now, it just feels like it's been more about the political game than it is about getting things done for the American people. I mean, from day one, the Republican leadership in Congress has decided that they weren't going to support a lot of the Obama plan. And I think now the American people are frustrated, they're tired, they don't want gridlock. And so, you know, when you watch his State of the Union address, and so much of the focus was on the economy and jump-starting small business in America, jobs and finding more jobs. The only way we're going to get this done is to make sure that both parties start working together. So I think that is where he's, you know, trying to take this.
Now, Mike, how much do you think that has to do with the victory that took place in Massachusetts a couple of weeks ago?
First, Jim's doing a great job spinning for his president. It's welcome. The Republicans very much welcome him at the conference this past weekend. But here's the fact. This health care plan was crafted behind closed doors without Republican input. That's why the president's failing. Americans are tired. They're very tired of gridlock. They're tired of things not getting done. But it's the Democrats who aren't including Republicans. That's what needs to change. And we're certainly happy that President Obama wants to include Republicans now starting this weekend. It'd been great if it could have happened earlier, but it's a great place to start as well. Now, you know, with respect to the State of the Union, it's another issue where he's saying one thing, doing another, wanting to freeze spending, but a second stimulus, and continuing with the health care plan, regardless of what happened in Massachusetts last week with the Scott Brown victory. Now, it's kind of, he's a little tone deaf. He's showing a level of arrogance that we haven't seen really. Some have seen it before, but this is pretty severe. I mean, he is not listening to the American people. Stop the spending. Stop the government overreach. They want more control over their lives, and he's not giving it to them. The Democrats aren't giving it to them, and they do have to work together. Republicans and Democrats desperately have to work together to get things done. And let's hope that this really is, he's going to turn over a new leaf.
Mike, jobs during the State of the Union was President Obama's headline, and he's coming to New Hampshire on Tuesday, a state where unemployment is lower than most states. Why do you think that he's choosing New Hampshire at this particular time?
Well, it's pretty close to Washington. I think that helps. Certainly, New Hampshire is a very special place in American politics and American policy. It represents a closely divided political state of heavy independence, split between Republicans and Democrats, and it's a place where small business is the backbone of the economy. So I think it's a very great, perfect, appropriate place for him to come and try and get out his message.
I think it's also, I mean, historically a state where presidents and presidential candidates come and sit down with New Hampshire people, talk to them face to face. This is going to be a town meeting, so there'll be interaction between the audience. And I think New Hampshire does make a lot of sense. But I do want to say also that the president has been, I think, listening. His State of the Union address had a lot of proposals in it that the American people want, that even Republicans have said they want. And if you look at what happened, from the beginning of this administration, and I think Senator DeMint is a very good example, Republican, one of the leaders in the Senate, when he said, if we can stop Barack Obama on health care, we can take his legs out on his whole agenda. And I think that's the mentality that has to stop in Washington. Unfortunately, it's a partisan game. It's more about how do we prevent this guy from winning a second term, and how do Republicans and how do Democrats control everything. That mentality is what...
How does he justify closing out Republicans behind closed doors to craft that health bill? How does he justify that? And how is that including Republicans? It's not. It's not.
I want to go back to what I just said, that from day one, I think the Republicans, and DeMint is the best example, they weren't going to work with this president. It reached the point when the president has to say, if the Republicans don't want to work on a solution, then we've got to do it ourselves. From the beginning of Barack Obama's presidency,
39 other Republicans, not just Jim DeMint.
From the beginning of this president's presidency, he has reached out to Republicans. You may remember right from the beginning, he asked Judd Gregg to serve in his cabinet. Judd Gregg was going to. All of a sudden, things unwound on that. Why? Because the partisan way that Washington runs, the Republicans said, no, we're not going to help this guy get anything done.
Jim, come on, this is not being realistic. Democrats have huge majorities in the House and in the Senate. This is not Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats not including Republicans. It's Barack Obama having a tin ear to what happened. The American public has spoken in Massachusetts, the most liberal state in the nation. They elected a Republican. Stop this government takeover of health care. And he's pushing ahead in his State of the Union, pushing ahead on that. Pushing ahead on cap and trade. The American public has spoken on that. He wants a national energy tax. He wants to cap and trade our energy. He's moving and pushing ahead with a level of arrogance that is unbelievable.
And I want to touch on that real quick, the Senate race in Massachusetts. Jim, how important do you think it is for President Obama to get that momentum back that he enjoyed a year ago without letting too much time go by and before it's such a wave that he can't stop this turn back to the right?
I think it's very important. I think that the American people want to have Washington focus on the economy and jobs. I think health care reform is important. The difficulty with health care reform is that we've been distracted by it, and the focus of the media coverage has been all health care reform. There's other issues going on in Washington that need to be addressed. So I think, the message that he's bringing, the tax credits for small business, the $30 billion in money to small business that will be loaned out. All of that is, I think, critically important to jumpstart our economy. So I think that, the message is coming across loud and clear. Health care is important.
But you can tell by the placement in the SOU, the State of the Union, where that was, that the attention, at least in his mind, appears to be shifting a little bit away from health care.
Well, the president mentioned jobs 34 times in the speech. And I think it's, important for people to realize that that is a priority with this president. It's got to be a priority for both sides to make this work. And I think the president put a lot of proposals out that Republicans should embrace. If they don't, then we're going to continue to see that the mentality in Washington is just the partisan game rather than doing what's right for the American people.
And hopefully Republicans will be allowed to the table this time.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll take a look at some fundraising numbers that have come in this week. How does it affect the campaigns here in New Hampshire? Stay with us.